Freaky Tah, real name Raymond Rogers, was a member of the Lost Boyz, a group from South Jamaica, Queens. They were well known throughout the 90s. Other members of the group were Mr. Cheeks, Sprig Nice, and Pretty Lou. Their independent song, Lifestyles of the Rich and Shameless, charted on the Billboard Hot 100. This was quite the achievement back then, because they didn't have the backing of a big label. Neither did they have social media platforms, and platforms like SoundCloud. It was all from going to different towns, performing and building a following the organic way. They would have had to sell physical copies of their records too, as the option of a quick download didn't exist. It paid off, because the song got the attention of Uptown Records, and they landed a record deal with them. Uptown Records was owned by Andre Harrell, and it's where Puffy started his career. The group's next single was Renee. This song was featured on the soundtrack of the movie Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. Their debut album, Legal Drug Money, was released later that year, and it was highly acclaimed. Hits on the album included Music Makes Me High, Jeeps, Lex Coupes, Beamers and Benz, and Get Up. Their second album was released in 1997, Love, Peace and Nappiness. Their main hit on that album was Beasts from the East, and both albums went gold. On a cold spring morning, on March the 28th, 1999, Freaky Tah had attended a party that was held for one of his friends. The party was hosted at the Sheraton Hotel in Queens, New York. He was leaving the party in the early hours of the morning. A man wearing a ski mask jumped out of a van and disappeared into the crowd outside of the hotel. Shots were fired. It soon became apparent that Freaky Tah had been hit. He had been shot in the back of the head, execution style. On Vlad TV, Mr. Cheeks explained the events of that evening. He gave a ride to some of his friends after the party. While driving away, he saw some cop cars whiz by. He assumed it was just people whiling out back at the party, but then he received a call informing him that his boy Tah had been shot. He said he and his friends made sure they were armed and rushed back to the party. They saw the immediate aftermath of the shooting. They went straight to the hospital looking for Tah. He saw his friend laid out on a table. He didn't make it. He was only 27. Cheeks said, till this day, when he thinks about it, he still breaks down. He doesn't really like to talk about it. He said Freaky Tah's murder messed up everything, destroyed families, careers, and the future of the group. But he is still making music till this day. Tah's absence was greatly felt. Both he and Freaky Tah used to vibe off one another. They were the main rappers in the group. Freaky Tah's deep husky voice was always in the background. He was sort of in the role of a hype man, but his contribution to the songs were integral, and it was a huge part of what made their music so great. 3 suspects were arrested for the murder of Freaky Tah. They were found to be affiliated with an aspiring rap group called Hellraisers. They were all charged with second-degree murder and the illegal possession of firearms. Kelvin Jones, 29 at the time, was believed to be the gunman. A source connected to the investigation alleged he had confessed to the crime. Ryan Finch, 24, was believed to be the getaway driver, and the third suspect was accused of providing the vehicle. So why did they target Freaky Tah? Well, there was a feud between the Lost Boyz and the suspects that began the previous year, when a member of the Lost Boyz was robbed. The source said it wasn't Freaky Tah who was robbed. He said, quote, "It was not the first time members of the group had been robbed," end quote. Unfortunately, if a rapper or group start making progress in their careers, they become targets, especially when they return to their hometowns and go back to their hoods. Everyone will assume they have money and they're more vulnerable to getting robbed, especially if they don't have a security team following them everywhere they go. It is believed that a member of the group's entourage decided to take matters into his own hands. He sought revenge and ended up shooting and killing Michael Saunders, a member of the Hellraisers crew. But according to police, Michael had nothing to do with the robberies. He had no involvement whatsoever. It is not believed that the Lost Boyz ordered the shooting. This guy just took it upon himself to retaliate, and it had devastating consequences. A tale as old as time. Someone getting shot in the hood, and revenge is sought on their behalf. And more deaths follow. Sometimes it doesn't stop, whether it's immediate or years later. The repercussions and tragedies continue, with more family members, yet again, burying their loved ones. And if it involves a hip-hop artist, it's yet another loss within the industry. Some say this guy was simply trying to impress the members of the Lost Boyz. But his actions not only caused Michael Saunders to lose his life, it also led to the death of Freaky Tah. Because the Hellraisers commissioned a van, went to the party, and drove around looking for the Lost Boyz. They were outside for hours, but they didn't lose patience. They remained in the area until they saw who they believed was their target. Sadly, it was a case of mistaken identity. They saw Freaky Tah and made the error of believing him to be the trigger man who took out their homeboy, but he had nothing to do with it. Kelvin Jones, the man who shot Freaky Tah, was Michael Saunders' half-brother. The police source said that Kelvin Jones went looking for the killer. He looked for him for months, but couldn't find him. He said, quote, "He knows one thing. He's affiliated or friends with the Lost Boyz." When he heard they were going to be at the party, he recruited the other two suspects and went there with one aim in mind, to kill the guy who killed Michael. The Hellraisers were not considered to be a real rap group. They were just some guys trying to put a rap group together. Perhaps the initial robberies were done out of jealousy in an attempt to put the Lost Boyz in their place. Judge Richard A. Brown called the murder the senseless killing of an accomplished entertainer. All suspects were eventually convicted. The gunman, Kelvin, pled guilty and acknowledged that what he had done was a mistake. When asked if the death of Freaky Tah was the end of the Lost Boyz, Pretty Lou said, "It was more like it stopped being fun. So it was like, I'm gonna go over here. I was traveling around and doing me. We were not doing shows because of bad management. It was a lot of things coming at us at one time. I wouldn't change the experience for anything, because like I said, I got to live my dream with my best friend. I got to see the world with my best friend. We dreamt about it, and we did it." Unfortunately, Spig Nice got locked up for armed robbery. He was sentenced to a whopping 37 years. At the time, he was only 28 himself. The group disbanded after this. He was actually released this year, 2021, after serving 17 years. It was just Mr. Cheeks and Pretty Lou who were left. They tried to do what they could, but Pretty Lou was more of a businessman than a rapper, so they didn't really make music. Mr. Cheeks went solo. We'll wait to see what the future holds for Sprig, Mr. Cheeks and Pretty Lou. Mr. Cheeks released a tribute song for Freaky Tah called Till We Meet Again. It featured Stephen Marley. The song was quite a success. Freaky Tah's son, who was only 8 at the time of his father's death, and who was featured in the Me and My Crazy World video, said, "He was more than just a hype man. He played multiple vessels to the team. He came through when they needed him most. That's what made the music so organic. My pops got some highlight pieces of work on those projects as well, on the solo time." The times have changed, so the music is definitely a little bit different, but you can feel the same type of soul that the Lost Boyz were bringing in their era. The Lost Boyz music was phenomenal, but it was the whole package that came with it. It was the lifestyle, the image, the energy that helped make that what it was. That energy and that spirit is still embedded in me, and it's still projected in my music. So he's now a recording artist himself. He said that Mr. Cheeks has really looked out for him over the years and is a mentor to him today. So that's nice to hear. Were you aware of Freaky Tah's story? and the tragic way in which his life was taken, due to a case of mistaken identity. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts below. If you found the video interesting, give me a like, subscribe for weekly videos, and don't forget to press the bell for more.